Hello and welcome back to Round the Table, your slow TV English class from the meeting point, broadcasting not only to Bilbao but throughout the world. And coming up in the programme this week, we have some What's the Difference questions for you. We've got some very interesting vocabulary to look at. We have a What's the Origin topic for discussion this week. And of course, we have our celebrity guest lecture, which is all about the topic of heroes. And of course, many other interesting things like this. That noise is called a wolf whistle, traditionally used to call attention to a young lady in the street, which in the modern world might seem rather sexist. But what is the origin, I hear you ask? Well, you know, on a ship, imagine someone boarding a ship. There's a man standing there with a little whistle that has two notes on it. And they have this special two-note little tune that they play when someone's getting on a ship. Well, apparently they have lots of other little tunes, and one is called General Attention or something like that to attract the attention of the crew of the ship. And this is the one that sailors started using when they were on shore leave, when they were in the port, and if one sailor saw a young lady and he wanted to tell his friends, look at that girl over there, he used this whistle. And that is where the wolf whistle comes from, apparently. Now I hear you ask, why is it called a wolf whistle? Well, apparently, back in the 1930s or 40s, there was a Tex Avery cartoon of the story of Little Red Riding Hood. And the wolf used that kind of whistle when he saw Little Red Riding Hood in the forest, which sounds a little predatory, one might say. Anyway, it's gone out of fashion. You're not allowed to do it anymore. But if you do, it's called a wolf whistle. Somebody the other day asked me the difference between embarrassed and ashamed. These two are incredibly similar. It's very difficult to explain exactly what the difference is. So I've been chatting to my computer to see what my computer thinks about it. So, embarrassed is when something makes you feel silly, socially uncomfortable or self-conscious. Okay? But it's not serious. So if you spill your coffee on your shirt, or you forget someone's name at a party, or you see your parents dancing at a disco, which can be very embarrassing, I assure you. So it's temporary, it's a light feeling, and you might go a bit red or laugh nervously. If you are ashamed, you think you've done something which is morally wrong, dishonest or hurtful. So it's much deeper, more serious emotion with links to guilt and regret. So if you lied to a friend, if you cheated in a test, or maybe you were dancing on the tables because you drank too much at the weekend, that might be shameful. Okay? So shame comes from inside, from your conscience, and it lasts much longer. So ashamed and embarrassed are very, very similar. Another little threesome that comes up here: drown, strangle, choke. Drown when your lungs fill with water. So it's an accident, well, usually an accident, in the sea or in a river or in a swimming pool. When you are in the water and you fill up with water, that's called drowning. Strangle is what one person does to another with hands around the neck, or maybe a rope around the neck, and you get strangled. So it's a violent, intentional thing. Now there's a third one, choke. Choke can often be an accident. If you get a piece of food stuck in your throat and you can't breathe, you can choke. And someone has to do the Heimlich manoeuvre, invented by Mr. Heimlich, who had to invent many other manoeuvres before he discovered the Heimlich manoeuvre. So it's usually accidental, but it could be intentional. Some people use choke in the same way as they use strangle when one person does it to another. There is a thing called a choke hold. If a policeman, in America one might say, is holding someone down on the ground, they put their arm around their neck. That's called a choke hold, and it can kill you. Be careful. So that is drown, strangle and choke for your What's the Difference for this week. In this vocabulary section, I'm going to be talking about frightened, scared and afraid. Now, I could have put this in the What's the Difference section, but as far as I can see, there is no difference really between these three adjectives. They are all to do with describing the feeling of fear. The only difference is when they can become nouns, when they can become verbs, and what structures of sentence you can put them in. Okay? So, frightened, scared, afraid are all adjectives. She was frightened by the noise. He's scared of spiders. I'm afraid of flying, for example. Okay? Now, afraid, it usually is followed by of, as in I'm afraid of dogs. Scared or frightened can be followed by of or by. So let's use it with of to begin with. In a sentence like, she is scared of the dark, or he is scared of thunder. If I use the of, I'm talking about a general fear. I'm not referring to a specific event. If I say she was scared by the loud noise, or he was scared by the thunder, he was scared by the film, I'm talking about one specific event. So scared and frightened can also be used in the same way as afraid of to describe a general fear, but scared and frightened can also be used with by to talk about a specific event. Okay? As far as I can see, that's the difference. Now, afraid has another meaning. You can use afraid to show polite regret or introduce bad news. So with a that clause, you might say something like, I'm afraid that I don't believe you. And of course you can remove that and say, I'm afraid I don't believe you. Or you can say something like, I'm afraid to tell you, with a to infinitive. I'm afraid to say, as a way of giving bad information to someone. So it's similar to sorry to say that, or unfortunately. Right, the next one, frighten and scare are both verbs. You see there's not an afraid, fear one in this group. It's only frighten and scare, which are verbs. So they are to cause fear in someone, as in the dog frightened the child, or that movie really scared me. So frighten and scare are verbs. Now we have the nouns. Fear, fright, scare. Fear can be uncountable. So she lived in constant fear, or fear can control people's decisions. In those sentences, that is uncountable. But you could say he has a fear of failure. So there we've got a singular fear. Okay. Fright and scare would always be countable, and I imagine in the singular. That noise gave me a fright. I had a scare at the hospital yesterday. And then we have the adjectives frightening and scary These are adjectives which describe things that cause the fear. The storm was frightening. That film was really scary. Okay? So these are not describing the feeling, they're describing the cause of the feeling. And that, my friends, is frightening, scared, afraid, frighten, scare, fear, fright, scare, frightening and scary. All of those related words. That's very interesting vocabulary, I think you'll agree. Today's interesting word is the word stock. Originally, it referred to, back in Old English, it referred to a tree trunk or a piece of wood. And if you put pieces of wood in the ground to make a fence, an enclosed area was called a stockade. Okay, imagine those old forts in the westerns where they made them out of pieces of tree standing up. That gives you the word stockade, so a sort of a defensive area. And if you look on maps of England, you see quite a few places that have the word stock as part of the name of town names. So, for example, you've got Tavistock, would have been a small village protected by a wooden palisade around the outside. And even the city of Stoke comes from the same thing. So that stockade is like an enclosure, and from that the word stock moved to the things that are protected inside the enclosure. Basically all your animals. This is why we have the word livestock, which usually refers to cows and horses and things like that. So the stock word then transferred from the enclosure to the animals kept inside the enclosure. This is why people say that they are from good stock or they are from noble stock. They're referring to the breeding of their ancestry, the people that they came from. And then from the idea of owning the animals, your possessions were the stock. It then transferred to all your other possessions, especially the possessions that you are going to sell. So this is why you have stock in a shop. And at the back of the shop they have a large storeroom, which is also called a stock room. And if you are in a shop and you're looking for something and it's not on display, the shop assistant will say, "We don't have that in stock at the moment," or "I'll go out the back and see if we have it in stock." So that is the stock connection to shops. This is also where the phrase "to take stock" comes from. If you work in a shop, once or twice a year, you have to go into the stock room and count everything. This is called a stock take. Okay, so you need to know exactly what is available in your shop. So you take stock. You can also use it more metaphorically now. If you are involved in some activity, some procedure, sometimes you need to stop and take stock of the situation. So it means to stop work and reassess the progress of the project. So you're taking stock of the situation. That comes from the stock room in a shop. So this stock word refers to things that are then held in reserve that can be sold later. This is why you have stock photos. If you go to a photo library looking for photos, they have lots of photographs and they're called stock photos. And you can also give a stock answer. If there's a standard answer that has been used many times before and it's pre-prepared answer, we call that a stock answer. It's like a fixed answer that you always use. So stock answers and stock photos are already prepared in advance. Stock markets, stocks and shares. If you buy shares in a company, you are dealing on the stock market. And that is because you buy part of the wealth, the capital that is stored in a company, the company's resources and supplies. So that is how You get shares of stock. Then another one, as this stock became the basis of other things, we then refer to stock in the kitchen. If you spend a lot of time in the kitchen, you might have a stock pot, a big pot of boiling water where you throw in all the bits of vegetable and bones and old meat that you don't need, and you make a broth which you use for cooking other things. And as it is the foundation, that idea of stock as the foundation of other things, that's where that one comes from. That is why you have stock cubes, those little cubes of caldito that you buy in the supermarket. They're called stock cubes. And one last one that I've just remembered, a short person who is sort of short and wide, we describe them as stocky. So obviously that goes all the way back to the beginning when the stock was the tree stump, the piece of wood. So if he looks like he's built like a tree, he's a stocky person. And one final phrase we need to consider is the laughing stock. If you are the person that everybody is laughing at, they say you are the laughing stock. This stock goes all the way back to the piece of wood. In medieval times, they used to have this wooden structure where you would put your feet in it and you'd be locked into it, and people would throw tomatoes at you and ridicule you for some crime that you'd committed. That thing was called the stock or the stocks. And apparently that's why we say he is the laughing stock of the community. And one final one, I know this is the third time I've said one final one, but I've just thought of another one. Stockings that are coverings for your legs, like long socks. They're called stockings. Socks is not related, apparently, but the stockings comes from your stock of clothing, the clothes that you had available. And it was later reinforced by the idea of stock being some sort of support and foundation for something. So stockings on your legs also come from the word stock. And I think you have to agree, this is a very interesting word.
This is a public health warning. Many people, when buying a new book, enjoy the smell of the newly printed pages. An innocent pleasure, you might think. But think again. Book sniffing is not only highly addictive, but can destroy lives. It may start as a pleasant experience, causing a feeling of lightheadedness or even mild amusement, but can lead to an irresistible urge to smell every book you encounter. The destructive habit of book sniffing can lead to an inability to concentrate or even stay awake, blurred vision and hallucinations. Look at this poor young man. His book sniffing habit has led to premature aging, and he is clearly losing his mind. Be warned, book sniffing is a vile and disgusting habit. Do not smell the book.
In every society, heroes play a vital role. They represent the values we aspire to, such as courage, selflessness, and determination. Heroes give us hope in times of crisis and serve as role models for younger generations. Whether they are real or fictional, they remind us that it's possible to overcome great challenges and make a difference. Some heroes are remembered for great acts of bravery. Soldiers who risk their lives to protect their country. Or parents who sacrifice everything for their children. Their actions are celebrated in stories, monuments, and history books. But not all heroes wear uniforms or appear in the news. Many are just ordinary people who act instinctively in dangerous situations. A neighbor who rescues someone from a fire, or a passerby who helps at the scene of an accident. These unsung heroes often don't see themselves as special. Nations need heroes. They help build a shared identity and give people something to believe in, especially in times of crisis or change. Patriotism often shapes how we see heroes, and what unites people at home can sometimes divide opinions elsewhere. Our school history books often depicted a one-sided view of historical events. We also tend to expect our heroes to be perfect. When we learn about their flaws or mistakes, especially when judged by modern standards, we are often critical. But real heroism doesn't require perfection. Many heroes are flawed, shaped by the time and context they lived in. In modern times, the word hero is sometimes overused. Celebrities and footballers are often called heroes for their talent or success. While some do inspire and even use their fame to support good causes, admiration isn't the same as heroism. In the end, heroes can come from anywhere. Some wear medals, others go unnoticed. Some are brave, others act despite their fear. What unites them is not fame or perfection, but the courage to help others when it matters most.
And as the sun goes down on another fine episode of Round the Table, I'd just like to thank everyone that attended the Friday night special at the meeting point this week. Most enjoyable, I'm sure. And don't forget there's another one on the 27th for those of you that couldn't attend on the 20th. Next week's programme will be the final one for the summer. I don't think I'll be continuing these through the summer holiday, so I'll be spending my time preparing things, preparing the new book for next trimester, and of course looking at the stock footage in the video libraries to see if I can make any more interesting adverts or public information films for you. So if I don't see you through this, which will be the final week of the trimester, if I don't see you this week, next weekend there'll be the final episode of Round the Table until October. So have a good week. Till next week.